All right, hey there, you guys. So we're 24 hours away from Developer Direct, and everyone has the one game on their brain, right? Everyone is talking about Fable this, Fable that, Fable blah 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 blah, right? A couple of reasons, right? There's a couple of games in there that are known quantities. Like we all know, Forza Horizon is going to be amazing, right? Well, all that being said, Fable is a game that was announced to be coming out in beginning of this generation, and we've barely seen much of it. We barely heard much about it. People behind the scenes in Xbox keep saying how amazing this game's gonna be. And in this video, I kind of just want to talk about what I hope this Fable can accomplish, what I hope this game can accomplish, etc. I'm an OG Fable fan. I played it back on the Xbox. I played Fable 2 on Xbox 360. I never got a chance to play Fable 3. A couple reasons. One, I was just busy in that point with other stuff. And then like once I heard how bad the game was, I had no reason to want to go back and attempt to try it. So to this day, I've never played Fable 3. I just hear it's bad. But as far as Fable and Fable 2, those two games I think have such strong like memories inside my brain. And in this video again, I just want to kind of highlight the stuff that I hope this game can accomplish and hopefully live up to what Fable means to me and what I think it means to a lot of people. So do me a favor, like, subscribe, etc. And then we're not gonna waste any more time. We're just gonna get into it. First things first, and I think the trailers up to this point have showcased two big things about Fable, about the franchise of Fable, right? I think so far they've showcased how whimsical the world can be, right? They have, giants and like elves and weird creatures and, giant pumpkins. Like they have whimsy in this game, which I think when I think back to specifically the OG Fable, like that game was just whimsical as all hell. It was like goofy. It was like this it was such a world full of energy, you know. I think even the NPCs, the way they interacted with you was so engaging. And not engaging in a way where it's like, wow, like we use like Cleric Obscure, right? Cleric Obscure is like so well written, so well acted. Fable wasn't necessarily that. It felt not silly and like, oh, this is stupid, laugh it off. It was charming, it had a lot of charm to what was going on. There was something very early 2000s about that Fable game that was just so, so part of its era, so part of its time, and it just felt good. It felt homey, and I really, really appreciated that about that game. The second big thing that I think the trailers so far have captured is again the writing style. I don't think Fable was ever, knee slapper, laugh out loud, hilarious, the most funny thing in the world, but it was still comical. It had a very lighthearted, comical feeling to it. And like the trailer so far, like as much as I don't think they're not the most hilarious things ever. I don't laugh out loud. I think they're cool premises, and I think they're charming in their own way. They make me smile in their own way. And I think that's something that if they can carry this throughout the entirety of the game, that they have something solid there. I think the people developing this game, at the very least, the bare minimum, understand that Fable was, you know, it was very lighthearted, and I really like that. And obviously, like there's dark stuff that happens, right? Like original Fable game, your entire family gets killed and you become an orphan and stuff like that. So like, we're not gonna say that the game is, super lighthearted entirety, but just in general, my memories of it were very colorful and very splashy and very fun in those type of ways. So far from what they've accomplished, I think they understand the early assignment that you gotta have that, a whimsical world, comical writing, right? Now, the most important thing, like you can't mess this up, and I feel like they haven't really showed it much, which I feel like was part of the entire marketing beat in the original Fable games was the morality system, right? The morality system between good and evil, and like a lot of games since then have used some type of morality scaling, with some gray areas and other ways of playing the game, etc. And I feel like Fable, the thing that made it the morality system so cool was it was almost pretty much all evil, all bad type stuff. Like you can try to be neutral and like do good stuff here, do bad stuff there, but you're not really playing the game as dynamically as you could, right? The dynamic ways that your actions kind of impacted you and your world were the fun parts, right? The original Fable game, the more you did bad stuff, the more you looked evil to the point where you had like devil horns and like you had this aura around you and like people run away when they see you, etc. Right? And it's stuff like that that I think you know this game needs to like dive deep in. They need to take that to 100, right? They need to, I think, find ways to separate themselves from other morality systems that we've seen since then, right? I think if they try to go in the way of more modern style RPGs where there's like gray areas and different, paths they can take and blah blah blah. I think they need to simplify it down to good evil because you know what? That makes sense for this world. Fable isn't like a deep narrative RPG with, all this type of like backstory and stuff like that. That's not what it was. It was, at least for me, it was very simple. There is, a cliche good and a cliche bad, and it's fun to play in that dynamic. It's fun to play in that story, that fairy tale world of, there's always good and there's always a bad, and you can kind of decide how you want to play that, etc. And you can kind of flip flop. Like you can work your butt off to go back to being good, or you can work your butt off to go back to being all evil. Like there was perks to doing all of it, and I would definitely kind of run up the spectrum from like full on Halo and stuff like that, or like full on Devil Horns. Like all that stuff was fun. Um, I think those are the type of stuff that this game needs to really, really, really harness. Is that like pretty definitive good and pretty definitive bad. I hope this doesn't go like into gray areas or into like questioning like morality. I hope this game doesn't have a statement to make. Like if I'm being honest, I want this game to just be fun for fun. I want the morality system to just be a fun dynamic part of the game, not necessarily like we hope you learn a lesson by the end of this game or something, or you walk away with some type of changing of the mind of your personality, and that's not what I want. Like I want just a fun whimsical game with a dynamic morality system, you know and I think that's what a lot of people I think are going to be thrown off by Fable. I think when you're used to playing RPGs, used to these like very very deep storytelling, all these character moments and stuff like that. And as much as I love those, but we have a bunch of those. We've had a bunch of those since the heyday of Fable. So I feel like if Fable needs to stand out, they need to go back to what they do, and that's being more lighthearted, you know. So again, all circling back to that. Something that I don't care too much about is the combat system. I do see some people talking about how like they hope the combat system is improved and they hope the combat system can stand up on its own and blah 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 blah. I'm gonna be honest, like if the world is dynamic, if the everything is engaging and there's a lot to do, I can deal with the combat not being great. If I'm being honest, like there's tons of RPGs that I play that don't have great combat systems, and that's fine sometimes if the world is well well realized. And when I think about Fable, sometimes I'm gonna be honest, I don't necessarily like lump it into games like Skyrim or something like that. I honestly more closely related to like a fairy tale version of like Grand Theft Auto. Like you can kill people, you can take their houses, you can buy property, you can rent it out, etc. Like you can do stuff like that that I thought was really fun. Um, there was like this way that like if you play Grand Theft Auto games, right? Like the pieces of the game aren't necessarily great. Like aiming isn't the best thing in Grand Theft Auto. Driving isn't the best thing in Grand Theft Auto. But all of it together, the whole package is what kind of makes it more fun. And I think that's kind of the same way with Fable to me. Like, I'm gonna be honest, I can't really remember a whole lot of boss fights in the original Fable game. I think there was like a giant spider I fought at one point. Yeah, again, when I think back about Fable, I don't think about the combat necessarily. I remember that some of the spells, like yeah, like the fire spell. You had one where you could like summon spiders, stuff like that. So like, there's definitely stuff that I remembered about like the combat system, but it's not like the things that in my head I remember so much. The things that I remember nicknaming myself Arseface. Like I love that parts of this game. I like it's the simple stuff that makes this game like fun and different and stand out. And I'm hoping that the development team isn't trying to like do what every RPG is doing nowadays, right? Or trying to find ways to kind of like modernize this. To be honest with you, I'm hoping they find ways to bring it back to its roots. I think naming this game Fable instead of Fable 4 allows them the freedom to, kind of bring it back. Bring it back to what made original Fable great. I think if even if you were to just remake OG Fable with like, Unreal Engine 5 or whatever, like I think that game today would still stand like very well because it's so original. There's not other games that play like Fable. Like it's so hard to akin Fable to other things, right? Like I see people say, "Oh, Fable was like comical Witcher," and it's like I guess like kind of, but Witcher's very different. It has a defined character and like a defined good and stuff like that. This like Fable didn't necessarily have that, and that's what I'm hoping this come around with Fable is. I'm excited for the developer direct. I'm very I mean, it's Xbox, so like I'm very cautious about anything Xbox does nowadays. But if there's one team that I do have faith in, it is Playground. I do have faith that they understood that they weren't the RPG studio, so they hired a bunch of outside talent from BioWare and stuff like that. So I'm hoping that they all came together and they made this really what it needs to be. Because if this Fable game flops, like at this point you flopped Halo, you flopped Gears to a degree, depending on who you ask. And at this point, you really just have Forza and Fable has been like it's been gone for so long. So like, let's make this worth it. Let's make this time can't be for nothing. I really, really hope that this game delivers on what I needed to deliver. Anyways, you guys, I'm gonna end the video with that. Let me know down below your guys' thoughts, and I'll see you guys on the next one.